Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Best Practice TV and our Thursday live session. If you are somebody who is looking after your risk management system for your organization, or if you are somebody who is, being charged with investigating what's involved in ISO 27001, in this session today, we're going to talk quickly about, from a very high level, what's involved in the process. We're not going to go down to the deep depths of cybersecurity, but we are going to talk about at a strategic management level, what's required for your information security management system that follows the intent of ISO 27001. ISO 27001 or 27001 as we call it in the industry. The current version of the document is 2013. So it's the Information Security Management Systems Specification and Guidance for Use. There's also a complementary document, which is ISO 27002, which is a code of practice for the controls for information security. So we've got two great technical guys at Best Practice who you can reach out to and ask the really complicated technical questions. But if you have got questions today, please watch the feed, obviously, the comments there, both on LinkedIn and YouTube. We're live on both platforms right now. So let me know where you're watching from. Let me know, even if you're watching this after the recording, let me know where you're watching from, and get used to those comments there so that you can help me with questions, because the questions are really that I can answer in this session or after the event. I will go back into the comments on this and I'll answer any questions that you ask in the comments section. I'll just comment. I'll comment with a reply. You can always direct message me on LinkedIn. You can always reach out to us here at bestpractice.biz. So at bestpractice.biz, there's a live chat function. We've always got someone on the Best Practice team manning that. So you can always ask a question on our website as well. So let me know where you're watching from. Oh, wow, we got people from Texas today, people from Sydney. So excellent. You guys watching on LinkedIn, if you want to let me know where you're watching from, please hit that like button so I know you're paying attention. That's like the roll call. Who's here today? Hit that like button so I can see who's here. And I know who I'm talking to. Good morning, Stan. Welcome back once again. So today I'm going to be talking about that information security management system. Yesterday we had a great session on risk management and your integrated risk management system. And today really is an extension of that into a very specialist area. What I'm seeing out in the industry and in the marketplace is a trend towards customers asking for you to have an information security management system when you have their data and their information. You could have information, their first name, their last name, their date of birth, their address. You could have credit card details. You could have blueprints on commercial in confidence designs. You could have specific knowledge about risks in their business, commercial in confidence information in their business. You could have a bunch of all those requirements or all that information, personal information on your customers or commercial information on your customers' businesses. And customers are starting to ask that you have an information security management system in place so that you don't accidentally or intentionally release that information to people who shouldn't have it. So we are starting to see where the trend is. Obviously, at this point in time, the trend is in government departments. So if you do any work for any form of government or any level of government, they are starting to ask in their procurement requirements for you guys to have for your organizations, if you choose to work for them, for you to have an information security management system in place. Certainly at a state level, both in the United States, at a bunch of states in the United States, and also here in Australia, and I've seen it also in the United Kingdom, in the UK, in England, that as state governments and province governments and local governments are starting to ask for ISO 27001 certification and having that management system in place for you to be able to submit your tenders or submit your proposals to do work with them. Here in Australia, of the 7 states and territories, those levels, each of the state security officers or state security commissioners have written information security policies. And in those policies do require that all suppliers at all value levels have information security in place, because a lot of information is being dealt with on cloud management systems, cloud procurement systems, systems to submit information electronically. They're asking for you guys to have that. So I do see this as going to be a significant breakout trend over the next 2 years. And that's why I'm getting on the front foot, helping you guys to understand what's involved in those standards. Okay, so good morning. Good morning from the Philippines. Wow, fantastic. Lots of people here in Australia, up in Queensland, in north of Australia. Fantastic. So let me know where you're watching from. If you've only just come on and joined us, it's obviously a smaller group today, which is nice. It's good to be able to answer your questions. So please do me that favor. If you've got questions about 27001, it could be, where do I go to buy the standard? What should I focus on? How could I do it? What should I be paying attention to? Please ask those questions. So Jeff, Bing, hello, Caitlin. Hello, Vanessa. Spoken to you both this morning. Hey, Carl, I believe a meeting's been scheduled with you, with Caitlin. Or they're going to respond to your email or your message. So we'll get that booked in today. So there's a few people here in the group. Bless you, Luke. Connie, welcome aboard again. I think I can see a couple of people there on LinkedIn as well. Stan, obviously. Magdalene, welcome back. If you've got a specific question, it's going to help me to customize my presentation for you today. I've got some things to talk about, obviously, as we go. That's a great question, Stan. I'll get to that in a second. So please use those comments there to ask those questions. Stan is asking probably the best question, what's the first step in evaluating this? Okay, let me just give you a story to kick this off so you understand, the why of this exercise. So from best practices perspective, we're really passionate about helping to unleash the true potential in your organization that you've got. When I say potential, in some instances, that's a huge amount of value, that we want to release a huge amount of value, profit, revenue from your organization, opportunity. And so because we're so passionate about it and we focus on that, one of the areas that we do try to help focus on is areas of risk. If we can cover and manage areas of risk and exposure, then that's going to give you more confidence to forecast further out into the future, revenue, profit, cultural performance, staff turnover, those sorts of metrics that are good for organizations, because you can take an advanced sort of look at where the potholes might be in the road and the hiccups along the way. So one of the things that I was brought up, my dear mother, who's fantastic, I get the great opportunity to spend a long weekend that's coming up with my family. And I will be seeing my mum. But my mum, she trained me to think about the consequences of my actions. So really, what we're talking about here, we're going to talk about cybersecurity and information security, but I want you to think about the consequences of your actions or the consequences of your inaction. So when we start to think about information security, we can start to think about, I've got this mobile device. It carries, I carry it with me everywhere. It's got access to my financial system. It's got access to my banking. It's got access to all of that stuff. It's locked right now. And then once you get into this system, you've got to go through, in each of those systems, you've got to go through another door, if you like, another locked door to get through. So if I went, it's inconvenient to have passwords and locks on my iPhone and then each of the apps that I use. Yes, it's inconvenient, but the consequence of my inaction being not putting password protection and two-factor authentication on everything, then the consequences of my inaction is my risk level is escalated around the potential for somebody to just pick up my phone. They're walking past, they pick up my phone, or I leave my phone in the back of an Uber, someone picks it up, they log in, there's no usernames, there's no password, they go straight into my banking, and then they can transfer all my money to themselves. Not that I have a huge amount of money, but that is, the first thing from an information security perspective, and this is starting to answer Stan's question, is I want you to think about how you protect your money. Because that'd be the first and most easiest way to understand how we start to think about the information security for us, and what is one of the most important things that you have electronically, as an example, that you need to protect, and that's your money. So how do you personally protect your username and password, or the access to your bank, and how do you ensure that people can't take your money away from you? Well, the first thing you obviously do is put it in a bank. Not necessarily the case. Some people still have lots of cash, but that is a good example of you personally. And then we can start to say, okay, well, how do we do that for our business? Now, there are people at Best Practice that have access to our bank, but we have double steps in place, controls, if you like, to ensure that not one person is responsible for all of the company money, so that two people are involved in, and that becomes a control, so that someone can't accidentally let someone else take the money or take the money themselves. So, I'm giving you a bit of a story in terms of the simplification. I think, Stan, the first place to start is to say what things or information that are electronic or hard copy are important to you in Australian Lifeguarding Services. So, or did I say that right? Lifeguarding Services Australia. So LSA. So I want you to be thinking about that. Obviously, money is a good place to start. Then you can start to think about confidential information. Then you can start to think about commercial information, and then you can start to think about proprietary information. And so that is the first thing. What do we need to protect? Because then we can say, okay, well, when we're starting to think about information security, there's really three things about, it is an information security. I'm trying to use the term cybersecurity to get more people's attention, because if we say information security, they're like, oh, that's a quality management system thing. Oh, that's all very boring. It's like, okay, well, what about your cybersecurity? So we need to make sure it's protected, it's maintained, and it's not damaged. So, in terms of we've got to protect it so someone else can't get it. We've got to maintain it so it's in the right place at the right time, and it's retrievable, if you like. So information security is as much about not getting your money wet, as an example. And if we use money as an example, how do we make sure our money is protected? How do we make sure that, the money is looked after, and then that it's not damaged? And I heard a really funny story about a sailor who has been doing some sailing racing on a boat. And it was a gentleman who had been paid by a customer in cash. It was $2,000 cash. He picked it up at the yacht club that I'm a member of, and it went into a paper envelope. So it was paper cash. It went into a paper envelope. He had obviously stashed it. He gone to go racing in his boat. There's nothing untoward about this. He'd gone to go racing in his boat. He had put it in the paper bag. He'd been handed to it on the boat. It had been handed to him on the boat. He put it in the front of his boat, went racing, finished the race, had a few beers, completely forgot about it. And 15 years later, when he was cleaning out his boat, he was cleaning out a pile of dirty, composty, papery type stuff in the front of his boat. And it happened, he remembered that he was like, oh my God, what is this mess? What is this black blob of mess in the front of my boat? As he pulled it apart, he realized that it was the $2,000 cash that he had stowed away in the front of his boat 10 or 15 years ago. So in that instance, it wasn't maintained and it got damaged. And so, Australian cash now is plastic, predominantly plastic, metal or plastic. So, getting wet is not so much of an issue, but it could catch fire. So I know I'm being funny about this, but I want you to think about from a business perspective, the information security management system that we can talk about all the parts of it that are part of the standard is really about, drawing specifications, commercial in confidence information, confidential information, personal information, private information, the information that you have in your organization that needs to be protected and needs to be secret. If it needs to be secret, it needs to be maintained. It needs to be not damaged. It needs to be not lost. It needs to be retrievable. We can now start to talk about the ISO standard, which prescribes elements of the business management system that help us to achieve that goal. So any questions on that? That's the starting point. The starting point is, what do we have that we need to look after? Then we can start to think about the hierarchy of control, and we can say, well, who should we allow access to? Who needs access? Who doesn't need access? Can they manipulate it? Can they change it? Can they damage it? Can they accidentally do something to it? That's what this is all about. Hello, Anna. Okay, Anna Tate. What kind of data would you need to gather to start the implementation process for a company? So Anna, in your context, because you're a finance person, the data that you could start to think about, and we can talk about implementation, you've got access to personnel records, you've got access to financial records, you've got access to finance, money, you've got access to money. So good morning, Joe. So when we are talking about, what to gather to start the implementation process, that's really the first place to start. So we've got to manage it accordingly. What we can then do is we can start to say, okay, well, what is the information that we've got, and what do we need to do? What are some of our stakeholders? Who are the people that are our stakeholders? You can start to do some stakeholder analysis, and you can start to say, well, who's interested in this information? Who is criminally interested in this information, or could be? Who might benefit from doing some damage to this information? Who might be upset if the information gets out, gets damaged, gets changed? Those are your stakeholders. So you can start to do some stakeholder analysis. So there's a couple of things happening. It's probably, what the what's, if you like. The what is the info that we have, and the who. And that's the stakeholder analysis. So who's interested in that? Who's involved in it? Whose information is it? Who could benefit from it? Who needs to use it? Who doesn't need to use it? Who shouldn't have access to it? Who should have access to it? We can start to do that, and that's a brainstorming list, writing a big list of all the different categories of people, or even first names of people. So what's the information we have? And then who? So staff, suppliers, customers, the bank, the shareholders, regulators. We can start to think about those sorts of things, the different people in the organisation. So I do want to get in. I know that lots of questions. People ask questions about the clauses of the standard. How do I go about doing this? How do I go about addressing ISO 27001? It's a pretty standard process from here. It's exactly the same generic process to build any sort of business management system. It starts with a really high level generic risk assessment, identifying risks, assessing those risks, prioritizing those risks, identifying the controls that you can put in place, and then monitoring the performance of those controls. So it is a risk management system. You can choose one information security risk, and you can put it all the way through the treatment process, or you can choose hundreds of information security risks and you can put them through the control process. But what we're then talking about is controls. So when you read ISO 27001, and that is probably the next step in the process, is to read the standard. We do have a course on the Best Practice Training Academy. If you go to bestpractice.biz, go across to services and have a look at online training, there is a ISO 27001 course that you can purchase online and do that online course with the amazing presenter Manny. He takes you through every clause of ISO 27001. I would highly recommend that you do that course. You can jump on and do that. So I will answer your question in a second, Stan. So we really want to go through and understand that every single heading of ISO 27001 is a control. It's recommending control. The first thing is like policy. What is your policy? Policy is a control. It gives everybody it's a way to get the party started with everybody to say, okay, we're going to take this position on how we're going to protect information in our company. Then the next control is do a risk assessment. The next control is assess your risk. The next control is put controls in place. So communication and controls are synonymous words in the context of the 27001 standard. So we're going to do this planning. Then we're going to do implementation. Then we're going to do controls. We're going to do monitoring and measurement, and then we're going to do evaluation, and we're going to do updates. This is the cycle of continual improvement in a bit more detail, but that is your business management system, BMS, business management system. Quality management system, safety management system, risk management system, financial management system. This is your business management system. So you're going to go through, do some information security planning, implementation, controls, monitoring. How often? Quarterly. You can do it more often, but not less often. So that's my rule here at Best Practice. If you follow us here at Best Practice, this is how we do things around here. You guys, as the audience for Best Practice, this is a quarterly process. Leaving these things and doing them annually, it's just not acceptable. I would prefer that you try to do it quarterly. If you stuff it up and you make mistakes, you're having a go and doing it, shorter time frames more often is more productive than a big long time frame once a year. You can't go to the gym once a year and expect to be fit. You can't do one running race once a year and expect to go to the Olympics. To be a high performance organization and implement best practices and be really strategic with your organization and grow and get the results that you desire from your whole organization, we do this business strategic planning and assessment and control and remapping on a quarterly basis. So that's your process. What I'm going to do now, I'm just going to quickly talk you through the 10. I'm going to pick up my notebook. I'm going to talk you through the 10 headings of the standard, so that, because we do always get questions, talk more about the standard. So I'll quickly talk about that standard. So stand by. I'm going to read from my notebook. I've got it open here. So let me just go in. So the standard is ISO 27001-2013, Information Technology Security Techniques, Information Security Management Systems Specification. So the official title is Information Technology Security Techniques, Information Security Management Systems Requirements, ISO 27001-2013, and then the Code of Practice is 27002-2013. Okay, I'll just quickly go through the headings for you. The headings of 27001 follow the same headings, the same structure as the other management system standards for quality assurance, ISO 9001, ISO 14001 for environmental management, ISO 45001 for occupational health and safety. So if you have a management system already in place for any of those international standards, certified or not, you don't have to get them certified. But if you do happen to have them and have them certified, when you start to add in information security, you add in information security risks to your already established risk framework. So when you're talking about occupational health and safety risk, you can use the same principles and techniques to look at information security risks. So the headings are context of the organization, leadership, planning, support, operation, performance evaluation, improvement. They're the same headings. It's a fairly simple standard to read. It's fairly simple to go through, but it does require you, to set your leadership up to take a position on where they want to go, to unleash their potential and grow and continually improve as an organization, set goals, hit the goals, keep evaluating your performance. It talks about what resources and support you need to consider. Obviously talks about, operation of your information security system. In the deep dive specifics, operational planning and control, information security risk assessments, information security risk treatments, and then information security monitoring, measurement, analysis, and evaluation. Of course, there's other elements there: internal audits, management review, corrective and preventative action, continual improvement, policy, and then obviously roles and responsibilities. All the standard stuff that is in a business management system. We're just using that very specific operational planning and control, information security risk assessment, and then the information security risk treatment. So, good morning. Oh, here we go. We got some, I apologize, I can't pronounce your name there, but welcome aboard. Someone there from Tata, I think, quality assurance. So welcome aboard. Who else? Oh, hello, Emily. Welcome aboard. So let me know if you've just come online. Let me know where you guys are watching from. Good group this morning. So the comments there are obviously the best place to ask questions. Is there anything specific about ISO 27001 that you guys would like to know this morning? Jump in, take control, and jump in and take control and ask your question, because it's not, this is your time. This is a Q&A. It's for you guys if you've got any specific questions. What I'd like to quickly talk to you about is the certification process. A lot of people, we haven't really touched on that very often because sometimes I just assume that people know what it is. The certification process is really looking at implementation. Actually, it's what we're, the end goal is the system defined as a box? Is it implemented? And is it maintained? So what we're looking at with any certification process is the first, what we would call in the industry, stage one, I tried not to use the industry jargon for you guys, but the first thing we're doing is we're working with you to look at how you've defined your management system. This is your business, your BMS, your business management system. So with your business management system, in this instance, it's your 27001 information security. The first rhetorical question we're asking is that system defined? So have you defined how you're going to manage information security? And are you following the context of ISO 27001? Yes, we are. So you will have we will be looking for artifacts, what success looks like. You will have an information security policy. You will have an information security risk assessment process, or you will have a generic risk assessment process that talks to addressing information security risks. You will have designated responsibilities in your organization or a supplier to manage information security. You will have all of your people aware of what their information security obligations are with some sort of induction training or training and awareness of what they need to do to manage username and passwords. You will have some of your information security risks identified in a risk register. You will have controls identified for those information security risks. You will have ongoing training identified for your team with information security risks and information, how to do the information security controls. You will have an ongoing monitoring and surveillance process of information security controls that follow the appendix. There's quite a good appendix, Annex, at the back of the standard that I would go straight to and read, because you can give that to your IT department and you can say, do all this. Those are the information security controls. The technical guys at Best Practice are specialists in recommending how you can approach those. You will be having quarterly management reviews of your whole business plan. And during that, you will talk about your information security, cybersecurity risks. You will have monitoring and measurement of performance on a weekly basis of where you might have threats of exposure, where new issues might be coming up. You will have someone in your business aware of your compliance obligations, your legal compliance, your contractual compliance, your customers' compliance, your industrial relations compliance requirements for any information security that you've got. So anything customers want, anything the government wants, anything the regulators want, you will have someone aware of that, and that will have influenced the types of controls you implement. And then you will be going through a cycle of continual improvement. That is what success looks like. So what we're doing in the certification process is the first thing we do is we look at, is that system defined? We're not looking at how it's operating. So we're doing a desktop evaluation and we're doing a conversational evaluation. Do you sort of know what's in the standard? Have you had a look at it? And your position, if you've never been certified to this standard before, if you've never used the standard, it will be immature, and that's okay. The partnership with us is to take you on that journey from not knowing very much to knowing more and understanding and controlling those threats and risks that you have. So that's the first step of the exercise. The second step we're looking at is your system implemented? So when you go for certification, we'll be saying what's been defined. So you go and define it. You might write a few documents. You might shoot some videos. You might come up with some ways to give your staff instructions and training, build a couple of registers, do some penetration testing, do some virus protection, do some password management, do some security awareness training for your staff, limit people's access. The most common thing that I see happen in an information security system implementation is access gets taken away from people because they don't fundamentally need access to everything to do their job. And that is where your fundamental risks are, is by giving access to everybody and everything. And people don't manage their passwords and their usernames correctly, and they don't need access to that stuff anyway. So limiting access to people is generally the first thing that smaller organizations do to help to manage their information security. So we'll be doing, has it been defined? Yes, it has. Can you make some improvements? Yes, we'll do some observations. And we'll be making some recommendations. Here's some things to consider. You're going to get better at this by focusing on these things. And we'll give you, I'm going to change that. We're going to give you focus points. These are things we'd like you to focus on. Focus points. Focus on these improvements. Focus on these areas because these are your best areas for improvement. Then we're going to say, have you implemented it? So did you do what you said you'd do? We'll give you some focus points. We'll give you some recommendations. If it's formal certification, we might say they might be, in the context of this needs to be fixed, so we can sign you off and give you an approval. And then we're looking at maintained. And so this will be an ongoing process of coming and doing what we would do visits on a 6-monthly or 12-monthly basis, or an e-audit. We're doing all of our audits at the moment via e-auditing. If you are anywhere on the planet Earth right now, the team at Best Practice can do an evaluation with you, because we're doing everything via Google Hangouts, via Skype, or via Zoom. We're using a secure Google Hangouts platform where we can invite you into our platform to help you guys with doing an assessment. So if you want to do a desktop assessment or a bit of a gap analysis to ISO 27001, reach out to us here at Best Practice, and we'll line you up with one of our technical people to set up a session to go through and do that desktop evaluation and gap analysis for you. And that can give you some focus points. That's our goal here at Best Practice. So then maintain and ongoing, and this could be 6-monthly or 12-monthly, depending. So smaller organizations, 12-monthly, medium organizations, 6-monthly, large organizations, we can do them 3-monthly or quarterly. And it's the same, if you're in this formal process of certification with Best Practice, that's a fixed fee per year, whether you do it 3, 6, or 12-monthly visits. I recommend 3-monthly visits, 3 to 6-monthly visits. It's the same price. You might as well get a little bit more support. It's like going to the gym more often. So our fees here at Best Practice on certification are just fixed for the whole year. Hello, Rhonda. Good to have you on board this morning down there in Tasmania. What a lovely part of the world. Okay, so from ISO 27001 perspective, that's just a really high level look at certification and what we do in the Best Practice certification business. But if you want some coaching, Next Practice, reach out to Nick Fagan at Next Practice, or reach out to the team here on the comments, and we can help you with, we can do a discovery workshop, and we can do an information collection workshop, and we can help you start to collect your thoughts in terms of where you want to go. And I'd highly recommend doing that. It's called an ISO 27001 information security discovery workshop. We've been doing some fantastic workshops through this COVID-19 crisis with everybody online. We just set up a secure Google Hangout. We can see everybody on the screen, and we can run those workshops. We can do whiteboards and butcher's paper, and we can do Jamboards on Google. That's been really great to do that with people. So if anybody's watching this after recording and you want to get some guidance and advice anywhere in the world, even you guys watching from the Philippines or over there in Texas this afternoon for you guys over there is, you can reach out to us and we can help you anywhere in the world. Okay, so what I'd like to, what I'm sort of doing today is really quick, in 30 minutes, a basic discovery workshop. Okay, I want to draw your attention to a couple of key areas of the standard, and then I'm going to wrap up. What the ISO 27001 standard has is this Annex, which is reference control reference control objectives and controls. And this is where you're going to get the most valuable information from the standard by going through. And I apologize, I'm just going to refer to my notebook for this. I'm going to read you out a couple so you just understand the direction that this is coming from. So just around, say, I'll do one on policies and I'll do one on really hardcore cybersecurity. So in the information security control objectives table, which is at the back of the standard, it's got, say, A5, for example, information security policies. Objective, to provide management direction and support for information security in accordance with business requirements, relevant laws and regulations. So you can see it sits at a policy framework level. Policies for information security. Control, a set of policies for information security shall be defined, approved by management, published and communicated to employees and relevant interested parties. So what that looks like is an information security policy sitting on your intranet site or in your private secret Facebook group or in the place where your team go to get guidance and advice. We here at Best Practice have an intranet, and a private secret Facebook group. That's where we put those kinds of things. So review of policies for information security. The policies for information security shall be reviewed at planned intervals or if significant changes occur to ensure their continuing suitability, adequacy, and effectiveness. Now, it's at this point in time, I want to direct you, and maybe Vanessa, you could post the link. We have a free ISO 27001 checklist, gap analysis checklist, that you can download from our online training academy. So Vanessa, if you could post the link there for both of us, and then Carl, I'll get to your question on LinkedIn. So if we have that free checklist, the checklist does reflect these controls. You can also purchase a hard copy. We can't sell soft copies, unfortunately, due to copyright reasons, but we can sell a hard copy of ISO 27001 from our online store as well. Now, I want to go to a hardcore cybersecurity component here down in cryptographic controls. Objective: to ensure proper and effective use of cryptography to protect the confidentiality, authenticity, and integrity of information. Policy on the use of cryptographic controls. A policy on the use of cryptographic controls for protection of information shall be developed and implemented. Key management. A policy on the use of protection and lifetime of cryptographic keys shall be developed and implemented through their whole life cycle. So this is about ensuring that it's like your website for your organization is open source and anyone on the internet can access it, read it, copy it, paste it, but that's your brochure for your organization. This is about your protecting with cryptography, the exact opposite to that. What is the information and what are the things in your organization that you want to keep private and confidential and secure? And it's like they're absolutely the last thing. You wouldn't put all your money on your website because it just would get stolen. So you wouldn't put your confidential information on your website because it just would get stolen. So if I'm making sense to you, this is the exact opposite, particularly for information that's being held electronically. I'll give you one more core area. So just this is like a hard information security control. Delivery and loading areas. Access points such as delivery and loading areas and other points where unauthorized persons could enter the premises shall be controlled and, if possible, isolated from information processing facilities to avoid unauthorized access. So when we're doing an information security assessment, a cybersecurity assessment, we're also doing a physical review of the location. In offices such as the one I'm in right now, often the walls just go to the ceiling. You can lift the ceiling tile and climb over the wall. That's not secure. So we're looking for those kinds of things. If you've got information that needs to be held very securely, and if it can be accessed, like blueprints and drawings can be accessed, physically accessed, not electronically accessed, then we would look for those sorts of things in terms of security. There's things about cabling security, equipment maintenance, removal of assets, secure disposal of equipment, unattended user equipment. Is any of your equipment unlocked when it's unattended? So it's really great. This is a really great learning point, like a 101 point to go to in ISO 27001. And look, I appreciate it. It takes time. I'm trying to give you as much as I can free here on our live videos, but I would encourage you to go into the annex at the back of ISO 27001 and have a read through. And if you stumble on any of those things or you want further explanation, reach out to me and I can help you, but it's pretty straightforward reading and I would encourage you. I want to give you the confidence to do that. Okay, let me get to Carl's question. I'm conscious of time. I try to keep our Thursday live streams short. Hi, Kobe. With current scenario, physical security office locations have been redefined and these controls, especially at outsourced locations, have taken a huge impact. As a result, can I borrow your mouse, Luke, so we can see the rest of that comment? So Carl, I think if I know where I'm going, just down a bit. Luke's just helping me here. Just this one, just hit see more. Luke's just helping me with the, just up a bit, sorry. Go back, just hit, just that see more. Just here, see more, just there. I need touchscreen. Okay, as a result, how do you see these from a third-party audit perspective? Okay, I'm a great believer in serviced offices and virtual offices. And so what, Carl, in that instance, the risk assessment would say we're in an unsecured serviced office. So from an audit perspective, we would look at the risk register and we would say, we want to see in your risk register that you're talking about unsecured serviced office. And then we would be looking to see that user access is, so it's about controlling risk using the hierarchy of control. So you eliminate the risk by having only your team working on a device, their own personal device or laptop or notebook in a serviced office. And the minute that they walk away from that device, it gets locked. Now, the device can still be stolen. So we would be looking for controls that consider how publicly accessible is the venue. And then can someone just walk in and pick up the device and walk off and then figure out how to hack into it later on? So we would look for devices, if it's an open office environment, a very public office environment, we'd look to see that those devices are physically secured, like locked, bolted, wired to the desk, so they can't be picked up and taken away and hacked into elsewhere. So those are the kind of controls we'd be looking for. And then we'd be saying, these are the risks we think that you guys have got. How do you guys want to solve that risk? We can give guidance on how to solve it, no problems. But then we will ultimately say, how do you guys want to manage this particular risk? Is it a risk if someone picks up your iPhone from a public office, steals it, can they access the information? So from an audit perspective, that's what we'd be looking at. And we'd be having that conversation either right now, we're having all those conversations on a virtual audit. But if we're asked to physically visit a venue, that'd be the kind of stuff that we're looking for. Carl, I hope that answers your question. And organisations have to make exceptions to enable staff contractors to work remotely with limited services, but with some impacts to services availability and continuity. Look, Carl, I absolutely agree. Right now, accessibility is a big issue. So, we want to be ensuring that we elevate the awareness training and we elevate staff training and we elevate staff knowledge, because a lot of this is about the human intervention of risk control. So we want to take access away from as many people as possible, people that don't definitively need access to those systems, particularly with people working from home in this current climate. And then what we want to do is we want to be really zoning in on, even can we partition data? Can we allow people to do what they need to do, but they can't have access to everything, for example. So it is really about getting really clever, and that is why I'm saying do more quarterly assessments. In thinking about the next 12 weeks, who needs access to what things? So you could give access to someone for a week, they do a little bit of a project, whatever they need to do, then you take their access away. And we've been doing that here at Best Practice. We'll give people access to a system for a short period of time, then take it away. And so that by shortening the time, we reduce our risk, we reduce our exposure. It's like, it's the risk of getting sunburnt, going out in the sun. By limiting your exposure, limiting the amount of time, you limit your exposure to the risk. So you can limit time, you can limit numbers of people, you can limit amount of information they can access. So we want to be really strategic with that, because we still want to be a nimble, dynamic company. And it's at a time like COVID-19 and in this current crisis, blanket controls don't work. And it's not the time for blanket controls because they're inefficient, they cost money, they restrain businesses, they cause bureaucracy, they cause red tape, all those sorts of things that we're trying to avoid. So I hope that helps. Would you mind scrolling for me there on LinkedIn, Luke, just so I can see if there's any further comments? That appears to be the last question. Carl, did I answer your question? Did that help? Hey, everybody who's watching right now, just comment yes in the stream, yes in the comments if what I've been saying has been helpful for you, and if it has been helping, if I've given you some guidance. Okay, Bing, I apologize for your username on YouTube. Because of the COVID infection, a lot of organizations are doing work from home arrangements, how we keep our information safe. I think I've answered your question there, Bing, around limiting people's information, ensuring that devices have usernames and are password protected, and then also consider how people are accessing cloud-based systems. Now, I'm not a tech specialist about routers and information, but whether people are accessing, maybe if it's super secure information and they have to work from home, maybe you need to send them in through a secure VPN or a virtual private network. So if you guys can consider that. Ask the question, in terms of most information that you guys have access to just through a username and a password in a cloud-based system is okay. But you can start to think about, what is, because you've got to think about the wire that goes between the internet and your computer at home, or the Wi-Fi, so you can start to ask those questions. I'm definitely not a specialist on that, but you can ask questions and say, okay, well, my home Wi-Fi, is that secure? Or is the public Wi-Fi secure? So, in offices like the office I'm in right now, the Wi-Fi needs a username and a password, and it monitors who's on the network, and you can't access the Wi-Fi if you haven't been given specific access to it. So, okay, I appreciate those yeses from everybody. I'm going to wrap it up about here. I apologize. I appreciate everybody's time this morning as we talk about ISO 27001. I want to draw your attention to bestpractice.biz newsfeed. So go to bestpractice.biz, check out the newsfeed. Yesterday, there was a really great article posted about phishing attacks. And the story that I told yesterday, I think I told the story yesterday about how our previous finance manager was hacked and asked to transfer $10,000 out of the Best Practice bank account and across to their account. We managed to rescue that, but that's a good example of a failure of our security management system. Fortunately, we were able to recover the money, which was great. But having, one of the things we've implemented here at Best Practice for really big payments, I called a supplier last week and I checked their banking details before I transferred money to them. So I did a really big transaction last week. And so I called that supplier and I said, could you please just verify the bank details on your invoice? When they verified them, then I transferred the money to them. So I know that people are hacking financial systems and changing bank details. So when you send out your invoices to your customers to be paid, that they'll change the bank details the customer pays into the other bank account. So you want to watch out for that risk. Okay, excellent. I appreciate everybody's support today. Please reach out to me on LinkedIn. If you haven't connected with me on LinkedIn, please do so. It's at Kobe Simat on LinkedIn. That's my handle. And then you can just hit the message button. If you need an email address to connect with me, if it's a third connection or you can't connect directly with me on LinkedIn, the spammy sort of email address I use is kobe@simat.com.au. So that's my first name at my last name .com, com.au. And if that's the email address you need to send me a LinkedIn invitation because we're in the third connection, or you're watching this video later on, or if you're watching it on YouTube, you can send me a direct invitation there on LinkedIn and connect with me. And that's how you can immediately message with me. So those messages come up on the screen of my iPhone. It's guaranteed that you can get directly to me. You can always comment there on the LinkedIn video. You can comment on the YouTube video. I get all the notifications on my phone. Yes, that's me personally answering the questions on the YouTube channel. So YouTube gives me this beautiful inbox, and I see all of the comments. So it's all of us here right now. Thank you to Luke for his time here in the studio this morning, wrangling me in. Thank you to Vanessa, Caitlin, and Alexi. Please go and check out bestpractice.biz. If you haven't signed up for the bestpractice.biz newsletter, email list, you can go to bestpractice.biz, scroll to the bottom, punch in your details, and you'll get on our email list. If you're already receiving emails from us, you're already in. Good morning, Mark, or good afternoon, Mark. Thanks for joining us. So thanks for jumping on and saying hello. Okay, awesome. So thank you, Stan. I look forward to doing that workshop. So yes, if you've all found this really interesting, I appreciate that. So your homework, get yourself a copy of ISO 27001 checklist free off our website. You can get that for free. You can jump straight onto bestpractice.biz, go to services, go to online training, and then download the checklist. You can get that for free right now. There's an ISO 27001 course available that you can purchase online. Those of you that are already Best Practice certified clients, you already have access to that course. For anybody who wants to get certified with us here at Best Practice, you get free access to all of the courses that are on the training academy. It's a huge amount of value. You can train as many staff in your organization as you want with all of those courses. For anybody who's considering certification with us, you can train all of your internal auditors. The course is there. We give you the link. It issues certificates. It's free for as many internal auditors as you want. You can train as many people as you want on 27001. We give you access to the training academy. It's all a huge amount of value. It's about $10,000 USD per person of training. You can train as many people as you want on all of those courses. We give you exclusive access to that. So please consider that. If you'd like to do a gap analysis on 27001 or a gap workshop on 27001, please reach out to us and we'll get you a proposal for that. You can message me directly or one of our team here at Best Practice. If you want to be ISO certified to 27001 anywhere in the world with us from Best Practice, you can reach out to us right now and we can sign you up and we can get that certification done. We are just about to announce a deal with a serviced office company where we will have offices in 250 countries. I'm working pretty hard to get that sorted. So I appreciate the likes. I appreciate the loves. Smash those likes and loves there on LinkedIn and on YouTube. I appreciate that. And if there's anybody that needs to hear this, then please share it. So you can tag them in the comments. Anybody you want to watch this presentation, if there's somebody in your organization that needs to know more about ISO 27001 and you're on LinkedIn, type their name. It'll come up and you can just tag them in the comments. Anybody there that you want to watch from your organization, you can copy the link on YouTube. This same video, if you're watching on LinkedIn, is available on YouTube. You can share that link, click the share button, copy the link and email it to them or text it to them so they get to watch this great video. Okay, yes, Anna, I agree. Having regular training with staff is good for keeping their awareness up to date. Okay, my name's Kobe Simbert. I'm the CEO here at Best Practice. And if you don't see me out and about, because the restrictions are starting to lift here in Australia, I am getting out and about for meetings. I'm about to shoot over to a meeting now. But if you don't see me out and about, you will definitely see me, how does it go? Right here next time on Best Practice TV. Bye for now. Thank you, Luke.